In a shocking turn of events that has sent ripples across Hollywood and the global fan base, Henry Cavill has finally broken his silence following the disastrous release of the latest Superman reboot under James Gunn's new DC Universe direction. After months of silence, cryptic hints, and mounting speculation, Cavill has come out swinging, blasting not only the creative decisions made by Warner Bros. Discovery, but also exposing the broken communication, betrayal, and outright chaos behind the scenes that led to what is now being dubbed the most catastrophic superhero reboot of the decade. What began as an ambitious attempt to revitalize the Superman legacy has now crumbled into a full-blown media firestorm, and Henry Cavill is no longer holding back. The new Superman film, boldly titled Superman Legacy, was marketed as the crown jewel of James Gunn's reimagined DCU. With a fresh cast including David Corenswet stepping into the red cape, a script helmed by Gunn himself, and a new tone designed to differentiate this universe from the Snyderverse, expectations were astronomical. But what the studio didn't anticipate was the intense backlash, not just from longtime fans but from industry insiders and critics alike. The movie, which opened to lukewarm reviews and underwhelming box office numbers, has been officially labeled a box office disappointment. Despite the studio's attempt to spin early numbers as promising, the reality is much bleaker. In fact, box office analysts now confirm that the film won't even break, even after accounting for marketing and promotional expenses. And while many expected James Gunn to weather the storm with his signature confidence and deflect criticism with promises of a broader DCU vision, what no one anticipated was Henry Cavill stepping into the spotlight with pointed comments that have now reignited the conversation, and in some circles, outright rage. According to reliable sources, Cavill, who had been unceremoniously removed from the role of Superman in late 2022, after initially being told he was returning, was deeply frustrated by the handling of the entire situation. But until now, he had kept his thoughts private. That changed this week. In an exclusive sit-down with a major entertainment outlet, Cavill described the process as emotionally disorienting, saying, "To be brought back and then let go again within weeks felt like a careless betrayal. Not just to me, but to the fans who've supported me and believed in that version of Superman." The interview, which has since gone viral across social media platforms, reveals an emotional yet composed Cavill finally opening up about what he calls the broken promise of his Superman return. He goes on to say that he understood the need for creative transitions in a franchise-driven industry, but he questioned the manner and timing with which the changes were handled. You don't do that to a legacy character. You don't do that to the fans, and you certainly don't do it in secret. This comment has fueled a wave of online backlash, with Northern Henry was done dirty and Hugh fire James Gunn trending on X, formerly Twitter, within hours. Fans are posting side-by-side clips of Cavill's portrayal versus Corenswet's, with many lamenting the absence of the gravitas and emotional depth that Cavill brought to the role. And while some critics initially praised the reboot's lighter tone and more optimistic vibe, the consensus now seems to be turning. The film lacks weight, urgency, and most critically, connection. Several fake news rumors had suggested that Cavill was simply unavailable or no longer interested in the role, but these have now been publicly debunked by the actor himself, who stated clearly, "I was ready. I was excited. I had cleared my schedule. Then I was told I wasn't part of the vision." That one line has become the rallying cry for fans demanding accountability from Warner Bros. And James Gunn. Behind the scenes, things are reportedly far worse than previously imagined. Insiders at Warner Bros. Discovery have confirmed growing internal unrest within the studio, especially following the film's commercial underperformance. One anonymous executive reportedly told a trade publication, "We took a gamble and we lost. And now everyone's pointing fingers." Sources close to the situation say there are mounting calls within the boardroom to reconsider the current trajectory of the DCU, with specific doubts being raised about James Gunn's dual role as both creative head and director. While Gunn is undeniably a talented filmmaker with hits like Guardians of the Galaxy under his belt, critics are now asking whether his quirky, irreverent style is compatible with the mythic tone that Superman demands. Moreover, the marketing campaign for the film has come under scrutiny. Despite flashy trailers and heavy online presence, the core narrative never resonated with fans. Early screening reactions were largely positive, at least according to studio leaks, but it's now being alleged that those screenings were tightly controlled, with feedback handpicked to build buzz. Several anonymous test screening participants have since come forward, describing their reactions as mixed at best, and some even admitting they were pressured not to post negative reactions online. If true, this would be a major blow to the credibility of the studio's promotional practices and an indicator of just how desperately they wanted this film to succeed. The backlash hasn't just been confined to online fandom. Prominent industry voices have weighed in, with some questioning the broader strategy of the DCU reboot. Veteran Hollywood journalist Grace Randolph commented, "The idea of a clean slate was appealing in theory, but when you ignore what fans love about these characters, you're not innovating, you're alienating." Box office analyst Scott Mendelson, who once praised Gunn's ability to inject fresh life into IPs, has since walked back his praise, calling Superman Legacy a cautionary tale of brand mismanagement. And he's not alone. Interestingly, while many assumed the industry would rally behind the reboot simply due to its pedigree, that hasn't happened. In fact, an increasing number of filmmakers and actors have quietly expressed solidarity with Cavill, citing the chaos of franchise transitions as harmful not only to fan engagement but also to actor trust. One unnamed DC alum reportedly told Variety, "We're watching the franchise eat itself from the inside. If they can do this to Cavill, they can do it to anyone." Adding more fuel to the fire, new reports are surfacing that Cavill was never fully let go in a clean and honest way. Instead, he was ghosted by studio execs, left in a bizarre limbo where he wasn't officially terminated, but also wasn't included in future planning meetings. According to his team, there were even brief internal conversations about keeping him on in a multiverse capacity, which were later scrapped without explanation. Cavill's agent has now confirmed these details, stating, "We were strung along. That's not professionalism. That's cowardice." To make matters worse, certain headlines have tried to spin Cavill's comments as bitter or defensive, a narrative many fans are calling out as disingenuous. And while some outlets have claimed that Cavill is angling for a comeback, the actor has been clear. His statement wasn't about returning, it was about respect. "I'm not here to beg for a role. I'm here to make sure the truth is told." That distinction matters, and fans are paying attention. But amid the noise, it's important to separate the facts from fiction. One particularly viral story claimed that Cavill had refused to work with James Gunn, leading to his removal. This is false. Multiple sources, including those within the studio, have confirmed that Cavill was never even offered a script or audition under the new regime. The idea that he walked away from Superman is pure fabrication. Another false narrative suggests that a new film was always intended as a standalone project. Again, inaccurate. Gunn himself stated in early interviews that Superman Legacy would be the launchpad for a new interconnected DC universe. That vision now seems fractured, if not completely derailed. What does this mean for the future of the DCU? It's hard to say. While Gunn has insisted he's moving forward with his plans, sources indicate that Warner Bros. Discovery may be quietly reevaluating those commitments. In fact, some are suggesting that the studio may pivot toward multiverse storytelling once again. An ironic twist considering how hard they pushed for a clean reboot. There are even early murmurs about a possible Elseworlds return for Cavill, especially after the stunning failure of the reboot, but no official confirmation has been made. Still, the damage may already be done. For many fans, this was a breaking point, not just because of who Superman is, but because of what he represents. Cavill's Superman was a symbol of hope, complexity, and endurance, a figure who evolved over time and mirrored our own struggles. By discarding that legacy so carelessly, the studio may have inadvertently undermined its own foundation. One user put it bluntly, "They threw away gold and replaced it with glitter." What's perhaps most fascinating and most damning is how quickly the media narrative has shifted. When Superman Legacy was first announced, headlines glowed with anticipation. Critics hailed the boldness of a new direction. Now those same outlets are publishing deep dives into what went wrong. The tone has gone from celebratory to surgical, with writers dissecting every choice, from costume design to tone to casting. The term Superman fatigue is now trending, not because of the character, but because of how studios are mismanaging him. And in the eye of the storm stands Henry Cavill, not begging, not attacking, but standing firm. His statement is being seen by many as a mic drop moment, a rare example of an A-list star speaking truth to power in an industry increasingly obsessed with PR spin and corporate silence. Whether or not Cavill ever dons the cape again, one thing is clear. His words have reignited a debate that will not go away quietly. And as the DCU faces its most turbulent chapter yet, fans are demanding transparency, respect, and above all, authenticity. As the dust continues to settle from the disastrous Superman reboot and Henry Cavill's explosive revelations, the deeper implications are beginning to surface, and they are far-reaching. What seemed like an isolated backlash against a single film is quickly evolving into a broader referendum on the future of the DC Universe itself. Fans, critics, and even longtime Hollywood insiders are openly questioning whether James Gunn is the right creative force to lead such a monumental franchise reboot. And while the public face of DC continues to insist that they are sticking to the new plan, internal leaks tell a very different story. At Warner Brothers Discovery, sources claim that a crisis of confidence has taken root. Meetings once focused on aggressive expansion and bold new narratives have reportedly shifted toward damage control. Executives are scrambling to restructure timelines and may even be halting development on several interconnected DCU projects that were scheduled to follow Superman Legacy. This includes rumored delays or silent cancellations of character spin-offs like The Authority, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and even tentative plans for a new Batman, Brave and the Bold. It's not official yet, but the writing is on the wall. Meanwhile, fans continue to flood social media platforms with demands for Henry Cavill's reinstatement, or at the very least, an honest apology from the studio. The Cavill Bring Back Cavill movement, which first surged during the aftermath of Black Adam, is now trending once again, only this time it carries more weight, more clarity, and more public sympathy. Unlike previous campaigns that were rooted in hope, this one is rooted in outrage. Fans are no longer asking, they're demanding. To understand just how dramatically the tide has turned, it's important to examine the media's shifting tone. Just months ago, major entertainment publications were running puff pieces celebrating Gunn's creative genius. Now, those same outlets are dissecting his every move. For example, a recent Variety expose details how the studio relied heavily on manufactured optimism during early press tours, using embargoed interviews and NDA-protected influencer screenings to control the narrative. Several influencers are now admitting they were discouraged from offering critical takes in fear of being blacklisted from future DC events. Even more damning is the revelation that several key creative consultants who were brought on board during the reboot's early development phase have quietly exited the project. According to Deadline, at least 2 major script advisors and 1 visual consultant parted ways with the project in early 2024, citing creative differences and internal disorganization. While these exits were not publicized at the time, their timing aligns perfectly with the first signs of fan skepticism around the reboot's tone and casting. This brings us back to Cavill, whose statement is now being dissected frame by frame. Some fans noticed subtle digs in his interview, including a carefully worded remark. It's not just about the cape, it's about the legacy behind it. That line alone has sparked dozens of analytical threads online, with many interpreting it as a subtle jab at the superficial approach taken by Gunn's version of the character. Where Cavill's Superman was forged in tragedy, moral complexity, and redemption, the new iteration has been described by audiences as surface level, quippy, and devoid of emotional stakes. This isn't just a matter of preference. It reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of the Superman mythos. The character isn't just a boy scout in tights. He's a symbol of burdened hope. Cavill understood that. His performance, while controversial at times, was always deeply anchored in emotional realism. For many fans, he wasn't just a Superman, he was the Superman. Replacing that kind of resonance with a version that feels manufactured has left a gaping emotional void, and it shows in the film's reception. Let's also address the false narrative surrounding Cavill's lack of box office pull, a talking point repeated by defenders of the reboot. This claim is categorically misleading. While Man of Steel wasn't a billion-dollar hit, it grossed over $660 million globally and performed exceptionally well in home media and merchandise, laying the groundwork for Batman v Superman and Justice League. Cavill's Superman became a symbol during a peak era of superhero media. His abrupt dismissal wasn't based on numbers, it was based on internal studio politics and a desire for a tonal reset. But the irony is glaring. The new version, meant to appeal to a wider audience, has alienated core fans and failed to attract new ones. What makes this worse is the tone-deaf way in which the studio has handled the post-release fallout. Instead of addressing concerns directly or showing humility in the face of criticism, executives have remained tight-lipped, allowing James Gunn to be the de facto spokesperson. And even his statements have raised eyebrows. In a now viral Q&A on Threads, Gunn dismissed complaints as a loud minority, sparking even more backlash. Comments like these reinforce the perception that the studio is unwilling, or worse, unable to listen. And this brings us to the broader issue, DC's relationship with its fan base. There's a growing sentiment that the studio treats fans not as stakeholders in the mythos, but as disposable consumers. This has resulted in a loss of trust that no amount of reboots, cameos, or multiverse gimmicks can repair. When Henry Cavill says, "You don't do that to fans," it's more than just a personal grievance. It's a summary of the studio's ongoing failure to honor its audience. To add even more chaos to the situation, conflicting reports about the film's budget have surfaced. While early press releases pegged Superman legacy at around $200 million, recent leaks suggest the actual production and marketing costs may have exceeded $280 million, far beyond what is justifiable given the film's performance. If true, this places the movie deep in the red and further amplifies questions about the leadership's financial competence. Investors are now watching closely, and if Warner Bros. Discovery's stock performance is any indication, there's already a market response to the mishandling of the DCU. There's also growing speculation about potential executive shakeups. While nothing has been confirmed publicly, insiders suggest that the recent restructuring at the studio, originally intended to streamline production, may actually be a prelude to more significant changes. Some believe James Gunn may be pressured to step down from his role as DC Studios co-chair and focus exclusively on directing, handing broader creative control to someone else. Whether that would improve matters is unknown, but it reflects just how precarious the current situation is. Adding yet another layer to this tangled web is the renewed discussion around Zack Snyder's influence on the DCEU. As more people rewatch the Snyder trilogy, including Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, a noticeable shift in public opinion is occurring. Critics who once lambasted Snyder's vision are now admitting that his work had emotional depth, consistent world building, and a committed cast. The resurgence of appreciation for the so-called Snyderverse has sparked calls for a return, not necessarily to Snyder himself, but to a tone and approach that respects the gravity of the characters. Fans aren't just nostalgic, they're fed up. The reboot promised something new but delivered something hollow. They were sold a reimagining but received a dilution. And through all of this, Cavill's poised and honest approach has stood in stark contrast to the chaos around him. He didn't lash out, he didn't play politics, he simply spoke the truth, and in doing so became a lightning rod for an entire movement. Even celebrities outside the DC sphere have weighed in. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who publicly supported Cavill's Superman return during Black Adam, liked several pro-Cavill tweets and posted a cryptic message about respecting the legacy of beloved characters. It doesn't take a genius to read between those lines. Gal Gadot, who played Wonder Woman, has also remained silent on the reboot, fueling rumors that her own exit from the franchise may not have been as smooth as the studio made it seem. Meanwhile, the fake news machine keeps churning. Rumors suggesting that Cavill was difficult to work with or had unrealistic salary demands have been thoroughly discredited by reputable Hollywood insiders. By all verified accounts, Cavill was cooperative, enthusiastic, and deeply respectful of the character. In fact, multiple crew members from previous productions have vouched for his professionalism, including directors and producers. These smear attempts appear to be part of a broader effort to justify an unjustifiable decision. So where does this leave us? In many ways, this saga isn't just about Superman or Cavill, it's a mirror reflecting Hollywood's current identity crisis. The obsession with constant reboots, the disregard for fan attachment, and the prioritization of branding over storytelling have finally caught up with the industry. Superman. Legacy was supposed to be the beginning of a new era. Instead, it has become a cautionary tale. Yet amidst all this chaos, there's a glimmer of something powerful: fan unity. The overwhelming response to Cavill's comments shows that fans still care deeply, not just about who wears the cape, but about how these stories are told. They want sincerity, vision, and continuity. They want studios to stop chasing trends and start respecting legacies. They want the Superman who wrestles with purpose, morality, and destiny, not one who's been scrubbed clean for corporate palatability. There is still time for Warner Brothers Discovery to course correct, but it won't come through PR stunts, teaser trailers, or vague roadmaps. It will come through real accountability, bold leadership changes, and an honest reckoning with past decisions. Henry Cavill may not return as Superman, but his statement has ignited something the studio cannot ignore. In the final analysis, this entire situation transcends one movie or actor. It's a litmus test for the entertainment industry's ability to evolve without losing its soul. As fans, we are not just consumers, we are participants in a living mythology, and when that mythology is mishandled, the consequences are cultural. So whether Cavill's Superman soars again or not, his legacy remains untarnished. He carried the cape with dignity, and now he speaks with the same conviction. And as for the DCU, its future is uncertain, its leadership is under fire, and its fans are watching closer than ever before.